Hello transport nerds and welcome back to Talking Planning. Today you join me on board a Bustech VST, travelling through a forest. And you're probably thinking, what's so interesting about that? Well, this VST is on an MAN 19 320 chassis, but more interestingly, it's operating with Busabout and travelling on the 887 between Wollongong and Campbelltown. In the case of the service is more interesting than the vehicle, the 887 is one of those rare bus routes that directly connects separate regions, travelling along high-speed roads like the Princess Motorway and Appin Road, and takes around an hour and 15 minutes end to end. So, for the longest time, I had been wanting to catch this service, and I finally had the chance to on a Sydney trip back in December 2021. Paying a closer look at this interior, you will notice that the inside of this bus is typical bus tech. So much so that it reminds me more of a Surfside MAN 19320 or XDI than anything else. The seats are trimmed in the usual standard Bustech fabric, the textured anti-graffiti panelling is of course present, and the usual Bustech bits and pieces are there. What is different is the view out the window, especially when heading through Appin, where there's some rather lovely scenery. Engine-wise, MAN offers both Euro 5 and Euro 6 versions of the 19320, and while I'm not 100% sure which one's fitted here, I'd guess Euro 5 as this bus was built in 2018, and it took quite some time for most operators to adopt cleaner emission standards. I'm also quite sure that Busabout wisely picked the 6-speed ZF rather than the 4-speed Voith, so let's enjoy the view and the engine note too. Fortunately, as the 887 between Wollongong and Campbelltown takes quite a while, there is time to savour the view, but it can still offer some great time savings. Compared to taking the train to Walleye Creek and changing for a T8 to Campbelltown, the 887 will save you over an hour, provides nice mountain views, and is almost half the cost, with a standard adult Opal fare of just $3.40. I am very glad I managed to squeeze this journey into one of my 3 or 4 day Sydney trips, as it's quite an interesting bus route. The bus, on the other hand, is nice but isn't the most unique design I've ever caught, although Bustech bodied MANs are pretty much the backbone of Busabout these days. This is starting to change as electric buses make their way onto the scene. This also hasn't always been the case, and on prior Sydney trips arriving at Campbelltown, I was greeted by a range of old school metal, including old Scanias and Volvos, with custom coaches, Volgren and Bustech bodies, and even the odd ex-Brisbane Metro liner. Although not entirely gone, these older buses are a rarer sight these days. Still, as the average commuter, day in, day out, a low-floor layout, air conditioning and moquette seats are greatly received, especially in comparison to the offerings of the late 90s, most of which lack these standard features. I did, however, catch a Busabout bus later that afternoon, which didn't have any of those basics, on a humid afternoon right before a big storm hit, so watch this space for a closer look at that bus. But as we edge ever closer to Macarthur, it's time to get ready to jump off this bus and to grab a late lunch after a big day of travelling around Wollongong, Illawarra and the Shoalhaven. So, thanks for joining me, and I will see you again soon.